In this video, I'm going to share with you why us moralizing to our children actually creates neurotic adults within them. I'm sure you've been raised, if you have been raised like me, with loads of moralizing from our parents. This moralizing topic is so fundamental. I mean, we moralize all the time throughout our entire lives. Government moralizes, society moralizes, schools moralizes, institutions moralizes, parents moralizes, we all moralize. And what I mean by moralizations is basically where we set a rigid set of rules that we actually take on as reality in terms of the way things should be. And we tend to use the words should and shouldn't in our moralizations. When our children do certain things, we then fight back and say, you shouldn't do this, and you should do that, and you should behave like this. And basically what we're doing is we're enforcing a way for them to show up in the world. We are rejecting the reality of what's actually occurred and the way that they have showed up in that moment. So if they've made a mess of food, that's what they've happened. That's what's happened in that moment. And we're literally trying to mold them in a different way to the way that they already are, in terms of imparting rules and obligations onto them in terms of the way that they should show up in the world. Now, you may argue the fact and say, well, I'm a parent, I have to set boundaries, I have to set rules. Otherwise, they're just gonna run riot. Otherwise, they'll end up having no boundaries. Otherwise, they'll get into danger. Like, I have to set rules, I have to moralize. But the issue is when we take it to extremes and we use moralizations to actually bury who they truly are themselves. When we literally try to puppeteer them into becoming something and someone that they're not. With the shoulds and the shouldn'ts, they literally absorb in those rules within themselves, and then they live out those lives with those rules. So say, for example, we're constantly telling our children, you need to be good, don't be bad, you shouldn't be bad, you need to be good. Our child is always going to go throughout life, in their teenage years, adult years, trying to either become this good image. For example, the manifestation of perfectionism. So people who are perfectionists tend to have been raised with the moralization of you need to be good, you need to do things right all the time. That's what can happen. They can grow up with the neurosis of perfectionism. So it really can enhance and enforce neurosis within our children. So we really need to become more conscious of when we use moralization to actually drain out their inner authenticity, drain out who they truly are, and impart these rules that they then take in and suck into their psychology, and it has a negative impact on their relationships, on the way that they show up and communicate with others, in their careers and throughout their lives. Now, obviously, there's a spectrum. You can have people who seem quite confident, children who grow up to be quite confident, healthy self-esteem. They have some moralizations, but they're quite in tune with reality, and they are living a decent, fulfilling life, right? With some tweaks here and there that they need to go through. But then you have the extreme of people who are going through depression, they're going through anxiety attacks, they're going through, they have anger problems, they have neurosis in terms of perfectionism. That's what we need to avoid, and we want to have a healthy balance. We want to ensure that our moralizations does not enable this spectrum to go too high and for our children to be extremely neurotic. We don't want that, okay? Because we have too much of that already. We want to break the cycle, guys, right? So what we want to do is we want to get familiar with what our moralizations are. And the best way to do that is when we become aware of how we moralize within ourselves, because once you become aware of how you moralize within yourself, because we do it all the time, we can then become very aware and very in tune of when we're moralizing with our children. So I know that, for example, I haven't posted a video for a while. Now, I could go throughout my day and go, oh, I should be posting a video, I should be posting every day, I should be. And because of that, because I'm always moralizing that I should be posting, I'm in conflict with reality. The reality is I haven't been posting for like over 2 weeks. I haven't posted a video on YouTube for over 2 weeks. That's the reality. But when I fight with reality, the backlash that I get is that I feel really drained, I feel really bad, I feel sad, I feel anxious, and I feel extremely demotivated. And the reason why I feel these emotions is because I'm fighting with reality. So what I want you to try is this simple yet powerful tool. And all you have to do is say it. So let me give you an example. When I'm saying I should be posting a video, I'm fighting with reality, right? The reality is I haven't posted for 2 weeks. So what I'll do is I'll change my should statement into shouldn't. I shouldn't post a video. And when I started doing that counterintuitively, instead of feeling tense and anxious in my body when I was saying I should be posting a video, I suddenly felt a sense of relief and peace come over me when I said to myself, I shouldn't be posting every week. Because what happened there is that I was in tune and in aligned with reality. The reality was that I wasn't posting every week. And then counterintuitively, when I said that to myself, I felt like actually bringing out my laptop, brainstorming some topics and planning for the next video. It's really counterintuitive. So you would think, oh, but if I say that to myself, then I'll never post a video. Well, actually you will, because when we moralize in terms of what we shouldn't do, how do we feel? If someone says to you, you shouldn't behave that way, you're not going to feel very inspired to behave in any other way. Like when I used to get told off by my parents, it didn't stop me from doing that behavior again. When I would get shouted at, it wouldn't stop me from misbehaving in another way, in a different way than that. But when I was listened to, when my parent actually asked me, why did you behave in that way? You know, what caused you to behave in that way? Okay, what's another way you could have behaved? I felt inspired and I felt listened to and I felt loved, and I didn't want to repeat that error again. I didn't want to repeat that negative behavior again, literally, because I was listened to and because my parents were accepted the fact that I made that error. I behaved in a way that wasn't okay. And they accepted that reality. Okay, so you stole from the shop, for example. All right, that's the reality. And then they would question me. So why did you behave in that way? Why did you feel you had to do that? And I told them I was because of peer pressure, blah, blah, blah. And I felt listened to and I didn't feel like ever stealing again. But knowing that if I was told off, you shouldn't be stealing, you shouldn't be doing that, then I'll probably want to rebel and do it again in the week after. Or do something else that will give me the naughty finger, right? So it's really, really counterintuitive. So what I want you to do is throughout your day, I want you to work on becoming very conscious of your should and shouldn't statements. Because what we want to ultimately do is we want to get rid of them completely. So what you could do to stop moralizing on yourself and your children to help ensure that they don't grow up to be neurotic is to stop the should statements altogether. But we can't just do that overnight. It's been drummed into our minds to moralize through society. We're conditioned from it from birth. So it's going to be hard to do that just overnight. So what we want to do is we want to align ourselves with reality, and we want to use the should statements in our favor. That's always in alignment with reality. So for example, if your house is a mess, so you've got your baby and your house is a mess and you're fed up, you're probably going to say things like, the house should be tidier, I should be tidying, I shouldn't be resting, I really should, like my baby's napping, but I should be, I feel too tired to tidy right now, but I should be tidying the house, like I'm fed up of this mess. You're fighting with reality, right? So how are you feeling? You're feeling anxious, you're feeling fed up, you're feeling drained, you're feeling even depressed and embarrassed to have friends and family over because your house is such a mess, right? And the reason why you're feeling those emotions, we need to use them as benefits because they're like trigger points to remind us that we're fighting with reality. So we need to pause and say to ourselves, look, can I accept the fact that my house is a mess? And then you say to yourself, I shouldn't be tidying the house. I shouldn't be tidying the house. And notice how that makes you feel. Because the reality is you haven't been tidying your house, right? For the past day or 2 days or a week, you haven't been tidying. That's the reality. So we want to align ourselves with reality instead of fighting it, because that's when we start feeling neurotic. And we want to say to ourselves, can I accept that the house is a mess? And then we change the statement from I should be tidying to I shouldn't be tidying. And then I just want you to pause and get in touch with what's happening with your body and your mind when you start saying that to yourself. I shouldn't be tidying. Now again, an objective might be, yeah, but it means I won't tidy. That'll just give me a reason not to tidy. But trust yourself. Trust in your innate ability to actually do the thing that you really want to do in the end, and actually come from a place of inspiration, a place of intrinsic motivation, where it's a natural motivation for you to actually go and tidy your house, rather than feeling like it's an obligation, like we did when we were younger. You have to tidy your room. Why do children not tidy their room after we tell them like 100 times? Because we're nagging at them. We tell them what they should do. But if we inspire them, if we accept the fact that their room is a mess, if we can accept that and accept that from them, they'll accept it within themselves, and then they will go and tidy their room. I'm telling you, it's a powerful, powerful tool. So it takes time. It's not just going to happen overnight, but you need to keep practicing it. Keep practicing it, because we've already been drummed in our minds with these should statements. So it's almost trying to break ourselves out of that jail, and that's going to take time. We need to be able to be very patient and align ourselves with reality. So if your house is a mess, change the statement to I shouldn't be tidying. See how it makes you feel, and then before you know it, you'll be gradually picking up some of the bits off the floor. You'll feel happier, and then gradually you'll be tidying the house, and then before you know it, your house is tidy, and it's gonna be like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, right? This is how I ended up doing this video. I was like, for ages I kept saying to myself, I shouldn't be posting every week, I shouldn't be posting every week. And it's been like a week later of me doing that, and I've now filmed 2 videos. You know, I was kind of going through like demotivation. There was a lot going on at home. I was raising my anyways, I'm not going to bore you with it, but there were some barriers. But when I stopped putting so much pressure on myself and aligned myself to the reality of I haven't posted for a while, I shouldn't post every week, it suddenly changed my behavior. Because what you want to do is you want to come from a place of natural motivation rather than obligation and negative motivation. So another example is if you want to lose weight, lose your baby weight, or just lose weight in general, dads out there, instead of using those moralizations of I shouldn't be so fat, I should be going to the gym every week, I shouldn't miss a day. It's very neurotic, you're not aligning yourself with reality, because the reality is you haven't been going every day, you haven't been going every week, or you have been eating junk food. So if you say to yourself, I shouldn't go to the gym every day, notice how that makes you feel. And the reason why you feel peaceful is because you are aligned with reality. Reality, truth is our salvation, literally. So align yourself with reality. It takes the pressure off of you, and it opens you up to become inspired by you going to the gym. You'll start to actually want to go. But again, it takes some time. So don't just feel like it's going to happen overnight, because we've been using moralizations for so long, since we were like 1 year old, because our parents have been doing it with us, our teachers have been doing it with us. But the more you can realize how you moralize within yourself, the less you will moralize with your children. Because what you want to do in terms of the way that we can, yes, set boundaries, yes, set some safety rules, yes, help them to realize that there's limits within life, of course. But we want to do it in a way where it's not personal to them as a person, but it's just the way that the life works, is that we want to accept the way that they're showing up right now. So when my child is making a mess while she's eating, she's only 2.5, she's gonna make a mess, and I'm a neat freak. I just pause, and I say, look, I say to myself, she's made a mess. And then I use silence to tidy it all up and put it aside. And then if I do want to help her to learn how to just eat a bit more, less messy free, then I'll say, okay, look, we're gonna eat gradually, we're gonna eat slowly, my mummy's gonna help you, and then if there's a bit of a mess, mummy's gonna tidy, but I want us to practice just eating neatly. But then I would focus on what she's doing well. So I'd be like, oh my gosh, you're putting it in your mouth, that's so good. And then I would ignore the mess on the table. And that would help to reinforce positive behavior rather than focusing on the negative behavior, which is the mess on the table, for example, right? So what we want to do is to ensure that we minimize moralizations within ourselves and our children. When we can do that, we can ensure that their inner voice, because their inner voice is created by us, our voice becomes their inner voice. So if we moralize continually, they will moralize within themselves, and then that will create a ripple effect, and they'll moralize with their children, and it will just never end. The neurosis will never end. So we need to cut the chain, break the chain, and ensure that we stop with the shoulds and the shouldn'ts within our inner world, to ensure that we can be more conscious when we are moralizing with our children. This also helps them to grow up to be independent thinkers, to trust themselves, to be more authentic, and to make more positive, well-rounded decisions that aren't based on what they shouldn't do in these limiting structures and rules, and are more in line with their inner goodness, their inner potential, and their inner authenticity, trusting that they'll always make the best decisions for themselves and others that will ensure that they live a more fulfilled and happy life. And don't we want that for our children, right? So if you found this video useful, I would love for you to subscribe and join the community, and leave a thumbs up as well, because all this topic is about is really setting a strong foundation in terms of how we can ensure that we minimize the neurosis within our children, so that they can really grow up to have that expansive mindset, to be more happy, to be more fulfilled, and have a balanced self-esteem and balanced self-confidence. This is what it's all about. So thank you so much for tuning in. There'll be more videos like this, so definitely subscribe if you want to stay tuned and up to date on the videos, and I will see you really soon, and happy parenting.